Hey, this is Tammy, and I am, like the shirt says, a Georgia girl. I am super excited to be here. I wanted to come on here. I was listening to Life After Church on TikTok, which is amazing. I love her little channel. It's great. I was watching some of her YouTube stuff, doing a little binging. If she's watching this, I really want to interview her on my show. But I wanted to come on and just talk about my journey into metaphysics. And so I'm from Georgia. I'm from Savannah, Georgia. Born and mostly raised. And I'm super excited about coming on here and sharing, this piece of my journey, because I haven't really shared a lot about that part of it. I've shared some things, I'm really pretty much an open book, and I'm pretty transparent. But I wanted to come on and just share a little bit about my journey into metaphysics. And I want to tell you a little bit about my background, where I come from. Like I said, I came from Savannah, Georgia. That's where I was born. Two parents. So I guess that's probably a part of why I love water so much, in the beach, and why I'm going to find me some probably later today and maybe tomorrow too. I don't know. But I love water. And so I wanted to just share a little bit about my journey in the path. So I'm super, super grateful for those of you that are watching, that are subscribers or followers or whatever. But so my story is, I was born in Savannah, Georgia. I was raised mostly there. I lived in Connecticut. I also lived in North Carolina when I was growing up, and then I lived outside of Savannah, in the country, as people say. I lived out there for a few years, so I was raised mostly around that place. But my background in religion, my grandmother was a pastor, preacher, teacher, evangelist, prophetess type, and so she actually started her own church, because the church that we were a part of, we were Pentecostal holiness. And so the church she was a part of at that time, this was probably the 70s, they did not allow women to be pastors. They didn't even allow them to preach in the church, really. I mean, she would get up there and they would give her 10 minutes, because she got to the highest place that she could be in the church at that time, and it was missionary mother or something like that. And so she would get up there, and they would let her introduce the pastor or the speaker or something like that, and give her 5 or 10 minutes. And so she said that God called her to pastor. And so she started her own church. And so we all went to that church, went to her church, which was amazing. It was a good church. It was called Clothing of Power Church. So it was just different all the way around. They believed in faith healing. And so that was one of the things that I grew up with learning. She used to go out and she would preach at different little churches, and she would do healing services. And so she would take me with her, because, I used to live with her and I was her road dog. My grandma was my person. And so we would go out to these little churches and do these little revivals and these little healing services and stuff. And we would go and just do healing on people, because people would come with all kinds of different conditions and stuff. And so I can remember my earliest memory of that is when I was about 4, and I went to a service with her, and she called me up to the front to lay hands on people. And so I started laying hands on people at 4 years old and praying over them, and they would get healed. And so I knew from that time that I was destined and called to be a healer. I knew that I was supposed to do that. I knew it. Everything in me told me that that is what I was supposed to do. So that's what I know. But I actually ran from that calling for decades, and I went to church, and I actually did a lot of stuff in different ministries and, stuff like that. And, I seem to always be looking for a ministry that could support me in what I wanted to do, and could actually guide me into the direction that I needed to go to, and help me with the clarity, because I knew that I was a healer. I knew that my grandmother had put so much into me. She imparted things into me that she didn't into some of the other grandkids. And so, I dealt with a little bit of jealousy on that part as well. I didn't even realize sometimes I think about it and I look back and I realize that, I was being hated on. And people were saying things about me, but, I don't care, and I wasn't even that type of person to be into that, so it didn't matter to me. But I knew that that was where I was supposed to be. So fast forward some years, I got married, had kids, and we decided that we were going to try to find a church to raise our kids, because we felt like, kids needed to have, that type of spirituality in their lives. And so we, because it was what we knew. We did what we know. And so many people do the same. You do what you know. You don't worry about all the rest of the stuff. You do what you know. And so that's what I did. So I did what I knew. And so I found, we went to few different churches, and, found a few. We stayed a little while in one, and then, when it started they started having a lot of confusion and stuff, we left that one. And then another one, it was like the pastor, we got there one time, and it was a Methodist church actually. And I had only been to a Methodist church with my ex-husband, who's now my ex-husband. And because his family was United Methodist. And so I had been to his church, and that had been my only real experience in a Methodist church. Mostly I grew up in Pentecostal churches. I only been to a Baptist church maybe twice in my life. I don't know how that happened, but I've been to Pentecostal and Church of God in Christ, Kojic, which is Pentecostal. Non-denominational is what I ended up in after years later. And non-denominational is really just Pentecostal, is non-denomination with a Pentecostal flair is what I say. Because typically they do a lot of the same things, but it usually is more open, not as closed as some of the Pentecostal churches. Like, you didn't have to wear your dresses down to your ankle like you did in Pentecostal churches. And you could actually wear makeup like you couldn't in Pentecostal churches. In some churches you had to wear the thing on your head, the dolly or the hat or whatever the hell. You had to cover your head. And I have no clue what that's even about. But, because I'm sure that God doesn't care. But anyway, I moved from that, and all this time, I was working, sometimes going to school, different things, raising my kids, raising other people's kids. But I knew that there was something that I needed to do, and it wasn't what I was doing. And I even started having this feeling probably maybe 15 years ago, that even this church that I was going to, that I had been to, because the last church I went to for about 7 or 8 years, where I basically, raised my kids, where they could get some education in in God. And so basically that church I went to, I started feeling disconnected, and my kids were there. We all worked in the ministry. My ex-husband was over the transportation ministry. I was over the nursing ministry at one time. And I participated in all kinds of stuff, because one thing about church is, if they know you have a servant's heart, they will use you. And it's up to you to put up boundaries toward that thing. But anyway, I didn't at the time, because I was a servant. And so I participated in a lot of ministries. I worked with the prayer, the telephone prayer ministry, which was my jam, because I am a prayer warrior. I always have been, and I always will be. And so I worked with the telephone prayer ministry, which was really good. I enjoyed that so much. I sang on the choir. My children sang on the choir, as well as the youth praise team. The youth had their own church with their own pastor and all this stuff. And so they sang on that. My son they had a rap team, which was amazing. They had a rap team. So my sons, they did rap team. My daughter sang on the praise team. And it was amazing, and I really feel like, that they got a lot out of it. And I really believe, because one thing about it, you can take people out of the church, but you can't take God away from them. And this is what I tell my children. I said, whether you go to church or not, I mean, I don't care about that. This church is a building, here. But I told them God lives inside of you. And so this is the thing that I started coming to. And so I started having all kinds of stuff happen, okay, so when me and my now ex-husband started to get divorced, I started to see a change in the way that the people related to me and the way that they talked to me even. And I started, experiencing a lot of things that I didn't think I would experience in this church that I had been to for about 7 or 8 years. I mean, it was like they were like my family. We socialized with a lot of the people, and we would do marriage retreats and couples nights and stuff is what they had. They were real big on that kind of stuff. And so we would do that. And some of these people we did those things with were some of the people that kind of turned on me and flipped on me. And I could not understand that, because that is not anything that I would do. I don't care if you don't ever come to church again. I still love you if I loved you before. And so I couldn't understand that, because to me, God is love. God is love. And so all of these people, pronouncing demons on people, like that crazy thing on TikTok was pronouncing demons on Jamie Foxx and all this stuff. That is stuff that turns people off, and it is unnecessary, and it's not of God. So anyway, so I started moving in that direction. I started meditating, which I had already started doing that anyway, even going to church, even though, and they actually encouraged it somewhat. But I started understanding my body, and I started learning about the chakras, and I actually took a Reiki class. Well, actually, I got my Reiki master is what I did, because for me, I feel like if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability and get the highest amount that I can get out of it. So that is what I did. I started doing, I learned Reiki. And then I started diving into the metaphysics and the laws, the law of assumption, and what's the other one? The law of attraction. That started because, of course, I read The Secret and I saw the movie and all of that, and that is always a good introduction to this place, but I had already started on that journey because my grandmother, when she started listening to Louise Hay and Abraham Hicks and Wayne Dyer and some of these free-thinking people, she started listening to Florence Scovel Shinn and Neville Goddard. She already was listening to Reverend Ike, who is actually her cousin. So, she was already in that vein, and I really believe, because I know that she was so far ahead of her time that a lot of people just didn't understand her, but I did. And so I knew that that was the legacy that I was supposed to take. I knew that there was a reason why I was there with her, so that she could impart the things that she imparted into me and onto me. And so I took that space up, and I started taking up that mantle, and I started realizing that, yes, that is who I am, and that is who I'm supposed to be, and that's where I'm supposed to be. And so what it did is it started shifting my whole entire life. Because the backstory is I was working in a job, in a career that I had been burned out in for over 10 years. Burn. Super burned out is what I call it. Because I felt like a robot. I mean, I just went to work, did the things, and came home, but I didn't enjoy it. I was tired of it. I got sick of the people. I mean, it was just all kinds of stuff. And so consequently, I ended up, going from job to job for a while, but not too quick. Usually about 2 years was about the length of time I could stay on a job. After that, it seemed like I got bored and stuff. And then I always knew that I was supposed to be an entrepreneur, and I always knew I wasn't supposed to work hard. But it was the example that I saw. My mother worked hard. My grandmother had worked hard before she stopped. And what was wild is the same thing that stopped me was basically the same thing that stopped her. She just couldn't. She was in a car accident, and she just couldn't do that kind of work no more. And that is kind of what happened to me. I started getting sick in my body, which I'm not a sickly person. I've never really been sickly. I've only ever had really basically female problems all my life. And that started when I was about 12. That's another video. But I never been sickly. So when I started having all these different illnesses and different things, and some of them, they couldn't even diagnose. So that's what told me that stuff was energetic. That it was God, source, universe, my angels come in to share with me that it's time for me to do this work that I've been called to do. And so that is why I'm here talking to you today. Because I know that this is work that I was called to do. I'm called to help people to heal, to shift, to, okay, become, y'all know when the sun comes out, I don't know about anywhere else, but here in Washington, when the sun comes out, people take off all their clothes. They go out on their motorcycles and ride up and down the street loudly like that. But I digress. And so when I started stepping into this path, it wasn't easy, y'all. It wasn't easy. And I got a lot of hate. I still do. Not as much as I used to, but I used to get a lot of hate because people thought that I was against God. But that's not the truth. I'm not against God. I love God. God is my source. God lives within me. God directs everything that I do. However, I know that God is so much larger than religion. And I know that religion is the opiate of the masses. It brainwashes people and manipulates people. And I decided that that was not something I could be a part of. I just can't. So I started on my journey into metaphysics, and I'm actually getting my degree in metaphysics right now as we speak. I believe I'll be done by August or before. But I'm working on that now because that's something that is a passion of mine. I really do enjoy, learning about how the real, true God works. And I know that so many things that they try to keep you in bondage about in religion. And so I decided that that was not something I needed to do. So I had a word from the Lord one night at work. I was at work 3 o'clock in the morning. I used to work night shifts. I've worked night shift for decades. I was working night shift, and 3 o'clock in the morning, I heard the Holy Spirit say to me, "It's time for you to leave this place." Now, when I spoke to one of my friends at work, she said, "Oh, we're getting off at 7 o'clock, da, 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 da." I said, No. I don't think that is what they mean. I don't think that. I think that is something totally different. So, of course, I started doing some research. I started looking up some stuff and seeing, how I could move, where I could go. Because at this time, I was actually only working one job, which, that was very rare for me. I didn't work one job that much. And so I started just moving in a direction of looking up where I could go. And I was going to do like a travel assignment. So I started checking that. I started reaching out to companies and seeing where I could go. And then I started just really, praying, really. I started really praying because I didn't know where I was going to go. And I started just asking, where could I go? You know what I mean? And so what happened was my cousin invited me to come to Arizona. So I did. I was in South Carolina. I packed my car down, and the funny thing is, okay, let me back up. So the funny thing is I when I prayed, I asked God to shut down things that needed to be shut down, and close doors that needed to be closed, and open doors that needed to be open. So this is what I said to God. I said, I need you to, open doors that need to be open and shut doors that need to be shut. That is what I said. And what happened was, which is so crazy, but this is what happened, is when I prayed that prayer, when I tell you, things shut down on me so fast in that town. It's like I could not find a job. I was looking for a job. I could not find a job. I did not know what I was going to do. But I'm looking for a job. Can't find it. And so I had called all the people I knew because I had been there for probably 16, 17 years, I think. And I called everybody I knew, that had jobs and nobody was hiring. This was 2012. Nobody was hiring. I couldn't even get an agency. It was just crazy. Doors just shut. My job, I had turned in my notice, but I told them I wanted to stay on call so I could continue to work and get a check until I left. But they shut me totally, completely out of the system. And nobody would return my call. And when I went over there, they rebuffed me. So I said, okay. And at the time, I didn't think about this, but you know what? That was doors that needed to be closed. Doors that needed to be closed. So I shut those doors. God had done that for me. So I was like, okay. And then I went to Arizona. And y'all, I went to Arizona with $500. And I think my daddy gave me $100 or $150 of it. But then I had the other $350. But I went to Arizona with $500, driving my car that I had really just bought. My car was not even a year old. But I bought it brand spanking new with 14 miles on it. And my car note was astronomical. Oh my God. And I think about that and it's like, oh my God, I went. And y'all know what? Today, that car is paid off. Not only that, if you go back and watch one of my manifestation videos, the one that pops up on my channel, you'll hear about that, because that was like a testimony as well. But I went, and my cousin said you could stay with me, so I stayed with her, and I was able to find a job within a few weeks. I think I started working for an agency, and they were horrible anyway, and they didn't pay no money or nothing, but it was enough for me to pay my car note and give my cousin some money and buy some food. And that really was what I did. I gave her some money. I paid my car note. I think I had maybe 2 little credit cards that kind of helped me. And so I made sure I paid on them so I could use them if I needed them. But yeah, so that was what I did. And then I finally got another job. And I worked that one for probably about 90 days. No, it wasn't 90 days because they fired me before the 90 days, so I couldn't get unemployment. That's what they did. Just evil. But I knew that God had me, even though it was a hard time, because it took me about 2 months to get another job. And, I can look back and say I was truly blessed because I had met this young man that was so sweet. We spent time together is how I'm going to say that. And he would help me, because he knew I was trying, and he knew I had moved out there, and, I didn't really have anybody but, my one cousin, and she had her daughter, and, so he would help me. And it was such a blessing, but we helped each other because I did some things for him, that he needed me to do, and he did some things for me, and it kind of worked out. One hand washed the other, and it was good. And I was so grateful for him. And I thank God for, allowing him to be in my life, and I met him on the internet. Like I met him on, I think it was Black People Meet, and it was good. I mean, we had a good time, we enjoyed each other and everything. And it was a good time. And I truly believe that he was there for me for that time period, for that moment in time. He was something I needed at that time. So fast forward, I ended up getting a job, and then I ended up getting a part-time job, which it was part-time because they didn't want to give you benefits, but I worked full-time hours. I don't think I ever worked less than 40 hours almost the whole time I was at that job. So I worked that job, and I think about it now, it was a blessing because I met one of my friends at the job, and she invited me to go to her church, which I don't have a problem going to anybody's church. I don't have a problem. I'll go to church. I'm not going to go every Sunday, and I'm not going to probably join any, but I will go and visit. And so I went and visited this church, and it's amazing because I actually met a good friend of mine as well there. And I don't think any of those people are there anymore. But for me, it was a blessing because after about the 3rd time I went, I met my husband. And when I saw him, I knew that he was my husband. I knew almost when I met him. But once we went out, I really knew, because he just had such a beautiful, sweet spirit, and I could feel the love oozing out from him. And I could feel that, he had been through some things just like me. and that we would complement each other. And I also felt like I knew him from before, like sometime in the past. I really feel like we've been together in another lifetime. So anyway, so as I started growing more into learning about the metaphysical and learning about the law of attraction, the law of assumption, and all these different laws and stuff, and started really stepping out to practice them and practice manifestation, even though I kind of always did know that, but I think this journey has really gotten me solidified on the manifestation journey, and the healing journey. Because what I learned is that, God wants us healed. And our bodies actually were designed to heal themselves, and they also speak to us if we listen. And our chakra system is very important and very valuable to, the health of our body. And a lot of times, you're having issues and stuff because your chakras are out of alignment. And it's the easy way to get them into alignment. Although you can see people, and I do chakra alignment, so you can see me if you want to. I do them on Zoom. But yeah, so I started really diving hard and deep into energy, and energy healing. And I started realizing that, a lot of the things that they told us just wasn't true, and that it was so much brainwashing and manipulation in that place, and I'm not talking about any particular church. I'm just talking about in the institution of religion, and so I had to really step up back from that and step away from that and really begin to honor the God that lives inside of me. That's what I had to do. Okay, they sent me a Spanish message, and I am definitely not Spanish. And I can speak poquito. So anyway, thank you for hanging out with me. I'm trying to think. This is a part of my journey, and so I wanted to just share it with you so that you can have an understanding of who I am. And if you would like to have a session with me, if you are on your journey and you are coming from religion to spirituality and you need some help, you want to have a session, you want to have a chat with me, we can do that. So just send me a message, or wherever you see this video, comment below it, because this one is going to go on YouTube. But anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for joining me. If you are a subscriber, thank you for subscribing. If you're a follower, thank you for following. Continue to follow, because I'm actually I've already started. I did a series on the chakras on TikTok. It'll also be on YouTube in the shorts. But I did that series on the chakras, talking about them, explaining them, and all that stuff. I'm also going to be doing little short videos about the body, because that's something I wanted to share. About metaphysical causes of some of the diseases and the conditions that we deal with, especially the everyday ones like arthritis and diabetes and all these things, because there are root causes and metaphysical reasons behind all of these things. Now, they try to make you think that you can't get rid of some of that stuff, but that's crap. Because I actually interviewed a beautiful young lady that healed herself of MS, and they say there is no cure. I worked with somebody, I interviewed somebody that healed himself of cancer, and they say there's no cure for that either. But she healed herself. She said she wasn't doing all that stuff. She worked on her diet, and she started, doing the things that she needed to do for her body. And so we can do that, and this is something that I want to help people with. And then I also am a writer, so it's something I wanted to do. I'm an author, 3 times author. I'm about to be 4 and 5 because I'm working on 2 books right now. I'm probably really about a 4 or 5 time author, because I wrote a couple of ebooks too. Forgot about them. But that's something that I wanted to do too. When I was in high school, like when I got ready to graduate, I wanted to be a writer or author. And, my people said, hey, you can do that, but, starving artist is real, and so they kind of discouraged me. And so I went the other way, into the medical field, because that's where all my family is. I mean, where so much of my family is. And, I don't have any regrets, but, it wasn't what I wanted to do, but circumstances. And sometimes it's like that. However, I don't regret it, because I did raise my children doing that. I had a good lifestyle, you know what I'm saying? I like a good lifestyle. That is just me. Call me spoiled, and I don't have a problem with it. I won't even argue with you. I am spoiled. My husband will tell you. But you can blame my grandfather or my daddy, because I'm a daddy's girl, that kind of thing. But yeah, so that is part of my journey. And I thank you for being here with me. So have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.